Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Wednesday. It is July 12th. This will be our chart lesson for the day. And if some of you couldn't find yesterday's video, I swear I uploaded it, but it was not there. Maybe I accidentally uploaded the previous day, and usually if you do that, if it's a duplicate video, YouTube will delete it. But other than that, I have no idea why it didn't upload, because I swear I uploaded it. But I uploaded it again before I did this video, so both of them should be there now. I'm going to double check it when I get through doing this video just to make sure. But I did upload it right before I started to record this, so I hope it's there this time. I don't know what happened. The only thing I can assume is I accidentally uploaded the previous day's video and they deleted it, because they'll usually delete anything that's a duplicate video. So, and it would have been actually, yeah, if it would have been the previous days, I would have been a duplicate video, so that would have made sense. But anyway, let's get through this. It's really late already. I'm real late getting this. I had a doctor's appointment today, follow-up doctor's appointment with my skin doctor, checking me over for anything new. I have to do that every 90 days, so I had one of those appointments. So I'm way behind today, but I apologize. But let's get to this. You can see we had this huge follow-through day today. We went right through this resistance. We closed way off the highs, so I don't know if we're going to turn down from here. We're getting back towards the overbought territory. We definitely overshot what I thought had kind of guessed at where the high was up here. If we move it on up a little more, like right here, it still fits. So maybe I don't think it fits as good as I had it before, but it does still fit. So maybe now we've made a high. It's just hard to know. This market wants to go higher, so don't argue with it. Just keep trading. If it goes higher, just keep trading it higher. That's all we can do. So don't never argue with the market. And you can see it definitely went higher there. So anyway, there's a look at it. Big bullish day. Closed off its highs somewhat. So we did take some of it back before the close. But let's flip over to the 2000 tick chart, take a look at it, and go through the trade. And you can see what happened. Most of all that movement was in the overnight session, and then we just kind of chopped sideways after that. So that's what they've done that a lot lately. They take it up during the overnight, or they take it down during the overnight. This case, they took it up, and then we just pretty much just chopped sideways the rest of that. We sold off some, recovered a good bit of it, and kind of closed. We still closed way up for the day, but just kind of closed in the middle of the range. You might be able to draw a bigger range here if you try. I'm sure there's probably one here. Yep, there it is, and there's your midline. Running right through the middle of it, and that makes sense. That kind of matches up with everything else. So yep, there it is. Let me just make this some other color, just to make it a little easier to see. But there's it's really a range day. Most of the buying came in the overnight, so for the most part today was a trading range. And a lot of sideways choppy stuff, and we were trading a lot of these ranges. There's a few trends in here you could trade, but mostly trading these ranges. But we had this news item early, so you probably didn't want to trade till after 7:30. You don't want to short something like this. I mean, it's tempting to go short. You did get a failure here, but when it didn't break lower after three bars, couldn't go below that, I'd sit tight. And you can see it would have worked, but better to sit tight, and then it bounces, and then you're just going sideways again. But we're in this blue uptrend channel, and notice here you get a first entry, second entry right at the key entry point, let me back up on that, right at the midline of this range, and you can see we bounced off that midline 2 other times, so that's like a triple test. I like going long there. Maybe since we just came off the high and then get back to the low, you sit tight on this one. But then you get a double bottom here with another bullish bar, and really it's another second entry because you get a new high there. Let me zoom in here a little bit. You get a new high right here, and then you get a first entry, it turns down, and so that's a second entry, a double bottom. It's really a higher low too, because it makes a higher low. That's a good place to go long. Just make sure you got room to get out, which you do. It turns back down here. You don't get really a chance to buy. I wouldn't sell this market yet. We're in an uptrend, so don't sell it. And here we try to go higher twice. I didn't mark this one, but it should probably at least be green. I just don't like going short yet in this market, but maybe you go short right there. It's clearly a second entry. There's two legs up, and it's clearly a first entry, second entry failure. So it's a failed second entry long, and you are getting short at proven resistance here. If we'd have turned down right off of the same resistance here, I'd like this better. Because it went higher, a lot of times they'll clear out a lot of those sell stops and things in there, and so it's a little dangerous going short right there. But there's reasons to like it. And of course it runs down. We get a break here. There is a second entry long here, and we do have a close outside and a new low, but I think it's too early to go long right there. So when we run up and pull back here, and this is a higher low, it's real close to being too far for a higher low. I mean, a lot of times I'd tell you that's too far, but you're expecting a retest of the high. This has been a really strong trend day. I like this one. You could argue that maybe this is green, but I liked it just because there's a good chance you're going to retest this high, and there's a good chance we might get another trend going higher as strong as this was. So something to think about there. But anyway, we run up, we make a new high, then we make a double top a little ways away from the EMA. That's like a lower high. I like trying to ride that back down and test the EMA. As long as you got room there, probably take that one. And then you can tell we're quickly in a range here. This one's tempting. It does make a equal low there, but I was a little hesitant on. That's another one you might mark green. I mean, you can see it there because it was an inside bar. It does make the equal low, and it is. You could argue it's a triple test there. So if it would have bounced off the support, I'd have liked it better. But sometimes you'll see these bars and it'll break higher and turn down. And you may not could have got in this one anyway because it just kind of gaps and takes off. And it looked like it was going to be a really good entry, and then it just kind of falters. You know, it just kind of runs out of steam and rolls over here. Then you get another second entry. Actually, this is a third entry because, actually a fourth because you didn't make a new high. 1, 2, 3. This would have been a fourth entry. You can't take it regardless. Signal bar is no good. This one's close. If it had closed back inside the range, I'd have said take this one, but it closed outside. And that's real close to, I don't think it quite closes in the top third. Turns out to be a good move, but you can't take that. And you got to be careful on the breakout here. You want to see it. You do get a second entry long and a double test here, but I'd like to see a triple test before I go long, especially when it's that congested. And you can see it doesn't go very far. And you got to be careful going short here because this is an uptrend still. We just made a new high right here for the day. So it's still in an uptrend. So you got to be real careful. And of course there is a small trend back here. Looks like you get a close outside new low, and then it's going higher again. And this one would be more like this. So, but anyway, same thing. You run up here, get a break, new high. This is all just real congested here. No shorts up here that I see until here. Notice you try to go higher once, twice. And there's also a first entry, second entry short, and it is right off what looks like a key entry point there. Plus it's right off the top of this range. So I like going short right there. As long as you got room to get out, take it. Turns out it turns out to be a pretty good trade. It comes back again here, and it's just a first entry though. I don't think you want to take that. And of course you get another little breakout down here, and this might have been, you might have adjusted this by now to something more like that. It looks like it fits better there. So it is a failed break lower that bounces. It's just not good enough signal bar to go long. Runs up, you get a first entry, second entry, and that's the first break of that. It is another break outside. Looks like we're back in the pink and it breaks outside. I like that one just to run it back down here. See if it comes back down to the low. And this thing, once again, it just kind of keeps going. But notice you get a first entry and you get a second entry there that fails, but it doesn't become a failure until prices break below that right there. So that would be the bar you enter on. I would probably wait for this bar to close and make sure it closed bearish, which it does. So I like going short right there. It looked like it was going to give you another chance to enter here, but it didn't. So if you didn't enter here, then I wouldn't enter this trade. If this would have made the high, this is really the signal bar here, and it looks a little congested by that time. So, but you can clearly see the trend channel or the trend line still holding there each time, and it finally just drops. And where does it run? It runs all the way to the bottom, back to the overnight lows down there, which are right here. Or actually, it runs back to these lows. I'm sorry, not the overnight lows. It runs back and makes equal lows here. You get two legs up. Unfortunately, you don't get a signal bar on that. That's clearly two legs back. That's like a perfect second entry, except your signal bar is no good. You get this inside bar and then a doji. You can't go short there. But if you're just patient, a few minutes later, you get another chance. This actually breaks. What we have here is you're moving down. You make a new low. You get a first entry, and then it turns down again, and then turns back up and gives you a second entry long that turns back down again. So it's a failed second entry long, and it's technically a second entry short too. It's a little more advanced. It's a little convoluted. If you can't see that, don't worry. It's much more advanced. You got to be a really good chart reader to see that. But there it is, and I like that trade because it's probably going to trap people when it broke lower, then went higher, and then came back down again. And then, even if you didn't see this trade, a few minutes later, you get a clear second entry short with a nice signal bar, plenty of room back down to these lows. Just take that trade. Notice you get a little failed break lower, comes back into the trend channel, bounces off the low with that big bullish bar. That's what you call rejection right there. Go long right there, and that's a quick, easy move. You don't get any runners or anything, but that's a quick, easy scalp for a couple of points. You could have actually, even if you took runners there, which I probably would on the failed breakout, you get 5 points there. So if you could still get 2 to 3 to 4 points off a runner there. So always, anytime you get those failed breakouts, that's where I like to pick them up. Try to pick up runners, especially if they're if they're at the low. Not only you have the pink channel here, you have the lows from across here. So there's like double support there, and so I really like that. And clearly this is played out. You actually had an overshoot here, and then you still had a break and a new low on a retest before it makes that higher low and goes higher. It does run up, comes back, just chopping sideways here. This looks close to a triple test. With it closing below the EMA and a little stem, I'd wait on something else. You get a higher low here, not a very good signal bar, right into the midlines. I just don't see anything there you can trade. No shorts up here either. Bounces, but again, nothing you can really trade. And then you get a failed breakout here. And you get this bar, it's like 3 ticks. It's a little aggressive going short there, but on this failure with 3 ticks, that far away from the EMA, and a breakout that goes nowhere, that's probably worth a scalp. It's worth the risk. 3 ticks. All right, if you get stopped out, maybe you lose 4 or 5 ticks at tops. So, and it could make a higher high from anything here, and then make another leg down like that too. It doesn't do that, but it could have, because this is played out right here, this green one. So you expect it to at least come back to the EMA, and that's what it does. So then it comes back and gives you a lower high. I marked this one. It's another nice. This signal bar is a lot bigger. It's 11 ticks, but it's very bearish, back in the pink. So you don't really have this trend line here yet. So I like going short there. It's good for a scalp and nothing more. And then we're going, then it bounces. It becomes clear there's a trend line there, and we're going higher. There is a second entry long here, right at a double bottom, but the trend line is not there yet. You're way below the EMA. Maybe you call this green if you got enough room back to the EMA. I don't think there is. Let's zoom in here a little bit. So I don't think you have enough room to scalp out back to that EMA or back to here, and you just failed out the top. So the odds are you could be going back to the bottom. So this is really risky, even though it's clearly 2 legs back. You do make a higher low, but not a good enough signal bar, in my opinion. And you're going long right into the highs of the range, and you see it. It did find resistance, and it could have turned down, but it pushes on through. There's a higher low here, but it's right into this dash line, which is the midline on the blue, and you got resistance across there. So stay away from that one. Then it runs on up, works kind of sideways. You don't want to go short. There's clearly a blue channel working up here. You can see it working off that midline. And then you get 2 legs back, the first break of the blue trend channel line, and a very bullish bar. There's a little stem there, but I think that's plenty bullish enough with a clear 2 legs back when we've been trending up. Prices should attempt to make a new high, so I like going long on that one. There's also a little double bottom. Maybe you might even say triple test here as well. Let me just draw the line so you can see it. So there it is. One, and it's not a big move up, but it does come back, and it comes back again. So you could call it a triple test as well. It looks like it may be forming a range. It doesn't because it just keeps going higher here. But you could trade that like a triple test on a range. Higher low here, but not a tradable one. Too far to trade it. And then we're just working sideways. But notice you got a break, a new high, and you really make a. There's another test here, but it's not much space in there. So I'd call that 1 test, 2 tests, 3 tests. Nice bearish bar, all equal highs. Go short right there if you could get in it. It gaps over there and moves pretty quick, but you might have got in with a limit order. And again, you might have got a runner here. You probably wouldn't have ridden all this out for a runner, but there's still 6 points there. And if you can get 3 to 6 of them, you know it's worth trying to get a runner. So this is another spot you might look for a runner at the high of the day, making a triple test like that. So anyway, this runs down. There's a lower high here, not a tradable one. There's a failure here, but it's too congested, not back to the EMA, and you can see it just keeps working sideways. But eventually you got a 1, 2, and you might even say 3 and 4. So as long as you got room to get out between here and here, take that trade. I think it's like 6 ticks, so it's real close. So maybe you let it break lower, drop a limit order right at the low there, so you get an extra tick or so, maybe, or maybe 1 tick back and see if you get filled. You may not, but that's the way I would try to handle that. If you don't know for certain you got room to get out, you might try to create some room by getting a little better entry. And sometimes you will, and sometimes you won't. And unfortunately, this wasn't bearish. It was just a neutral doji, and it just takes off. And you get your break, new low, bounces. Nothing in here you could trade to the downside or the upside. Too risky. And that takes us into 230. So there it is. There's still lots of trades here today. Not the easiest day. This is a range day, so you need to be. To me, I really like the range days. This is not a clear-cut one because a clear-cut range, you'll get multiple shorts right off this line here, and you'll get multiple longs right off this line. Well, that didn't really happen. You had to kind of trade the patterns within the pattern. You got a trend here. You got a range here. This is really still part of this. This was a pretty big trend down, so this is still part of that on the retest. With a trend that big, even with an overshoot, it's going to probably attempt to retest. It may not. You can see it came close to almost not getting a retest, but it does get one. And then the others were off this key entry point. And then you found resistance on the way down here. And then here you're just playing the range. And here you're playing the uptrend. So a little bit of mix of everything today. So uh, that gets hard for some people, but the more experience you get, the more screen time uh, and such, the easier this gets. So it doesn't come easy. It doesn't come overnight. It's like trying to learn a non-native language. So if you speak English and you've never spoken Russian, it's like trying to learn Russian, and you got to get fluid in it. And even once you learn it, it's like the speaker is speaking in broken, assuming we call this Russian, this chart language, and you learn Russian. Well, this chart still speaks in somewhat broken Russian. So you have to interpret it sometimes because it's not perfect. It's not perfect written or spoken language, but that's what it's like. That's the best way I know to describe learning to read this chart. It's always a little hazy. The chart's speaking to you in a broken language, but it's a learnable language. And if you learn the language and you use our rules, you'll get to where you can get it right about 80 or 90% of the time. And if you do that, you have the odds on your side. And if you follow the rules, you'll make money. So that's really the game plan and that's really what you're trying to do is learn to read this chart. And again, it's like learning to read any kind of foreign language or listen to any kind of foreign language that you didn't learn growing up. It's complicated to learn another language because you want to speak in your native language. And so chart reading is the same thing. You're learning a non-native language, and not only that, the chart is speaking, it's like a speaker that's not really good at it and speaks that language and with an accent and in a broken language. Like me trying to speak Russian, I'd stumble all over myself, and you wouldn't understand me very well. In fact, I can't even speak. I can speak a little Portuguese because I used to go to Brazil a lot. Haven't been in a few years because of all my health issues and some other stuff. Uh, my mom and so forth, and of course COVID slowed all that down. But I hope to start going back again soon. And I haven't spoken the language in 3 or 4 years, hadn't practiced, and so I'm rusty again. But after I'm down there a week or two, I start to pick it back up and remember words I forgot. But I'll always probably speak in broken Portuguese, and so it's hard to understand me down there. And this chart would be the same way. It's speaking to you in broken chart language. You got to learn chart language first, but then it's still going to speak to you in a broken. Is not a very good speaker of it. So I hope that's clear because that's really the best way I can think to describe what learning to read the chart is like. It's never going to be. Sometimes it is crystal clear. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes it's simple, like simple sentences, like that you learn in first grade. See, spot, run. Sometimes it's that simple, but other times it's not. It's very complicated because it's kind of hazy, and you're not quite understanding everything. But what I tell people is only take a trade when you're certain that you're understanding the price action, what it's telling you and what it's doing. And when you get in that rhythm, some days it's just like taking candy from a baby. And then some days it's super hard and you'll be real frustrated. But it's just because it was a harder day to interpret. And you can't let that beat you up and get you down because that's what happens. You have one bad day, and that one bad day discourages you and sets you back. And then so the next day you're nervous about it. And so even if it's not a hard day, you still struggle because you're letting the previous day filter in and beat you as well. So don't allow that to happen. But anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again and do it tomorrow. Believe it or not, tomorrow's Thursday, so it's going to be another week behind us, man. The weeks just keep flying by. Summer's going to be over before we know it. A lot of volume today, considering that it's July and a lot of people are on vacation. So hopefully August we'll get some real fireworks and some real movement again, and that's generally what happens. It picks back up in August, September, and things look really get to really moving again. Will that happen this time? I don't know, but that's generally how it works every year. It gets real slow during the summer, especially July, around July 4th week and weekend, and then of course Labor Day will come up right at the end of the month, going into August, and so it's usually slow until after that, and then it starts to pick up. But anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again and do it tomorrow and wrap up our week. I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next.